was having a lot of trouble with my house battery being drained by my starter battery. I have this, I think you can see it from there, this Perco switch, and I was keeping it on all, and thinking that the battery charger hooked up to the shore power would charge both batteries that way. And what it was doing was keeping my starter battery topped up, and when not in use, my starter battery was draining my house bank. So my new setup, I bought the SI-ACR automatic charging relay with start isolation, and the switch that goes with it that simplifies everything. So you just has a one position for on. It isolates both battery banks, and the charging relay actually keeps the batteries separate and determines which needs a charge and which one's full. And then you can combine, with this switch, you can combine both if you need a lot of juice to start the battery if you're really low. I think that's a really good safety option. So, what I'm doing today, as it seems is always the case with my projects, I'm going to Catalina Island next weekend, and I need to get this starter battery, house battery situation worked out. I pulled the house battery, I took it home, charged it overnight, charged up great, no problem, which is good. I was a little worried that maybe the battery was defective or something, but it's not, it's great. So I'm not ready to install my proper switch everything yet, because I have to remake my chart table and whatnot. So I was thinking through everything, and I'm actually going to install my battery selector switch back here. I'm going to recess it in to the bulkhead, and my battery banks are actually on the other side of this bulkhead, so that works out really good. And I don't really need to get access to that very often. I can still reach through the shelf no problem and get to it, but it's not something I'm going to be switching all the time, so that seems like a good solution. I thought I was going to install it on the face of my new switch panel, similar to the way this is, which I don't really care for. So I'm glad I figured out a way to do it without putting it in that panel, because that panel, there's not a ton of room for add-ons in the future. So today, what I'm going to do is drill out that, recess this so it's back mounted inside the lazarette, and wire up the charging relay, the new battery switch, and get both my battery banks hooked back up and all squared away. If I can get all that done today, I'll be very happy. So I got to get to work. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but I drilled a pilot hole, and I've checked inside the lazarette to make sure I'm not going to be, there's no wires or anything back there. I have my giant hole saw, 3 5/8. I actually needed one a little bigger, but I can't find any that are bigger, which is strange. But this is the exact size as the battery switch. So I'm probably going to have to sand it out a bit so that this fits. But this is what we got going. Again, it's going to be a little hard to see, but and that's that. Now to clean everything up and see if this battery selector switch fits. So I'm back in the lazarette like the old days. So I've decided to hook up my battery charger the way it's supposed to be hooked up, rather than the way I had it hooked up, which makes no sense whatsoever. I think I copied what the previous owner, how he had wired it up, because I just was like, didn't know anything about it. But now I've gotten into it, it's pretty apparent. There's terminals for the positive to go to each of the battery banks. So there's one for the starter battery, and there's one for the house battery. And so I'll go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. I've also almost got the battery selector switch installed, and I have the automatic charging relay screwed in place. I think I have to get one more battery cable before I can hook the entire system up. But I'll show you guys what I've been up to. It's been a pretty frustrating day, which is common with boat work. But here's what we're dealing with. So here's the battery charger, and you can see there's two positive leads, and I only had one hooked up that went to the common on the battery selector, which obviously didn't work too well. So now I'm going to hook it up so that it goes individually to each of the batteries. And then this is the setup so far. I still have to bolt the battery selector into place, but I got the wrong size bolts, so it's been one of those days. And I still have to get one, I think I'm one shy of the positive leads to go to the relay. So that's a step back view. Everything will be tidied up, obviously. But yeah, everything takes so much longer than you anticipate it to. I got here, didn't have the right size chuck for my hole saw to drill the hole for the selector. So I immediately had to leave to go to Home Depot to get that. So that took like an hour and a half just because my marina is kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And then got back, and it's just like one thing after another. I mean, we all know how boat work is. It's like that. So, but I'm racing the sunlight right now, trying to get the at least the power rehooked up, so the batteries are charging, and the bilge pump and everything's wired up. So gotta get to work. So I got both batteries hooked up. They're both hooked up to the charger now, just doing its job. I have my battery switch hooked up. I still need to bolt it in place when I get the right bolts. I have to get another positive for my automatic charge relay, and then I can hook that up to both batteries. And it took until after dark, but man, I'm stoked that that's done. So now both batteries are charging on shore power, and they work. They're isolated from one another with the switch. Very stoked. And we'll go ahead and switch this on and see what's up. And there you have it. We got power. We got a messy boat. So that's a great thing. So now both my batteries are charging. I checked the cabin lights without the shore power hooked up. Worked fine. I started the engine without shore power hooked up. Worked fine. So I know that the batteries are isolated from one another because of the new switch. And they're both doing their job. And my cheap little battery monitor shows that it's full. The voltmeter shows that we got 14.2, which is what the charger puts out. And then I switched off the battery switch, and then crawled in the lazarette and checked the with a voltmeter, checked both of them to see both batteries to see if they were charging. Because I have the battery charger wired straight to each of the positive terminals, and both of them are charging. So, really stoked. The boat's a disaster, but I'll come back tomorrow and fix that. Right now, I got to get everything back in the lazarette and get the boat locked up, head home. I have to work in the morning. So, pretty productive. Man, it's slow. slow going, but got the that big ordeal worked out. And also it's nice because I wired it up where it's going to be forever. Even though I'm not ready to wire up my full switch panel yet. That was a huge jump that I had to do. So I just got to get one more positive battery cable, and then I'll be able to hook up the automatic charging relay, which will that will make sure that the house battery charges while the engine's running. Because right now, the way that the since my battery charger has 2 positives, I don't need the automatic charging relay for the shore power charging. So there we go. And then next time we're here, we'll be on to some more silliness. Look at the size of that sea slug. There's a cool one too. That thing is massive.